Hello, everyone. I am Beau.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're back here with Imperfect Works, Episode 2.
Yep.
Going to still be going on with Xenogears. And I do want to reiterate that unlike other Xenogears podcasts, and unlike even the one Donoram has already offered, this is more about what we experienced personally playing Xenogears as children and what we experienced as adults when we went back and played again. We're sort of juxtaposing that. So we are going through the narrative. So I didn't give any spoiler warnings in the first episode, but there will be spoiler warning. There are spoilers. Yeah.
Just consider every second of it a spoiler, because the whole game is a spoiler.
It's a 24-year-old game. I feel literally nothing. I feel no remorse giving you spoilers at all. And it doesn't even ruin the experience of playing the game, because there's so much depth to this that we're going to miss so much.
And even if we did a perfect cover of it, like literally frame by frame, unless you're actually playing it doesn't quite click the same, from an audience point of view.
It's like reading a book again.
Yeah. Versus having someone
it's
tell
so
you the
text heavy that this game is actually like reading a novel.
Yeah. It really is. I forgot how much reading is in it.
I think it had the record for most text in a video game when it came out. If anyone was keeping track of that sort of thing. But yeah, you know how you go back and read a novel, and I read The Hobbit every single year of my life. And there's still something at least fresh.
Yeah.
Maybe something I didn't notice last time, or maybe something I hadn't noticed in years. But before we go on, I want to share a story about my grandmother. She used to call me out to the porch, and she'd say, "Beau, Patreon keeps the lights on." So
grandmother was very tech savvy.
Granny, she's dead right. It's a truth as old as those hills. Every dime that goes into Patreon goes back into making this a better show. I'll even use some of the funds to buy a little light on my MacBook that says, "Turn the mic on, dumbass," because of what happened last episode, if you didn't know. I've been really good about not telling Adam that's what happened, but he knows now.
Yeah. He probably already knew.
He already knew. Actually, he accused us of using the Yeti, which I think is a very, very grave insult to the Yeti.
That's a big, that is a freaking insult to the Yeti, because if we used the Yeti, we would have been peeking.
Right.
We would have been just like wind tunneling in your ear.
But something, Aaron, that you pointed out as we left, Faye is leaving Lahan. And something you pointed out was it was very odd to be playing a video game where the main character has lost.
Yeah.
He's objectively lost. Now, it's not like things look bad. It's like he's lost. Because the fact of the matter is, we're an hour into this game, a couple hours, depending on how much grinding you did.
Best, yeah.
We don't have our protagonist has no goals.
Nothing. He has
none.
Literally nothing at this point.
Something I noticed last time I played is, as opposed to other JRPGs, especially of this era, when you get to the part where you leave the hometown, where you get exiled from the home, for whatever reason you leave the hometown, there's always a purpose you're going after. And Faye right now doesn't have a purpose. He doesn't even seem to have a lot of feelings. I was thinking about this between the episodes. When Slayton was like, "Hey, you need to get out of here," there wasn't any, I think he's like, "But this is my home. I think there was a where would I go? I've got nowhere else to go."
He does say, where would I go?
But there's no, this is all I know. There's no real protest. Faye's just like...
He just accepts it.
And the game's kind of ambiguous because he says so little. We don't know if it's shock. If it's just like, yeah, I'll get out. We don't know if it's shock. We don't know if it's just a, you know what? Oh, it's getting dark. I'm going to head home.
Considering the conversations that he has once he gets into the forest just outside of Lahan, I've always kind of interpreted it as that in that moment, standing there, realizing the devastation of Lahan, realizing it's his fault, feeling the accusations, he's basically accepted it, fully, and not in a good way. There's different kinds of acceptance.
Faye is heading towards Black Moon Forest.
Yep.
That is where he was told to go. Black Moon Forest. Faye's not been outside of Lahan, but presumably he knows that beyond Black Moon lies Ave proper.
Yeah.
The entire desert nation.
Yeah. Saiton has told him that very little.
So so Faye's heading that way. Saiton presumably went back up the mountain path to go tell Yui what happened to the village, and based on his behavior we've seen before, probably try and make it her fault somehow.
Yeah, he literally just walked up there and informed her she was feeding.
Thank you for cooking dinner for him last night. You know who else is going to thank you? The funeral director.
Hey, honey. You know what's really funny? You know, I'm always dogging you about your dinners, about your food, and how it's really bad. Guess what Faye did after eating your food? He slaughtered the town.
He's such a terrible person. So Faye gets into the Black Moon Forest, and in my last podcast that I did about this, one of the embarrassing moments was I said that Black Moon was a pain-in-the-ass dungeon because I wasn't remembering the game very well. It's not.
Well, you know what's really funny is I remember it being a pain in the ass.
But it's not.
It's very straightforward, yeah.
We were so... you know what it was? We were just stupid when we played this game.
Children.
There is a bare minimum platforming to get out of this first section, and once you're out of the first section, there is effectively no more dungeon.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good grind spot.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
You do not hob jerky, which is good.
Yes, you need to get plenty of hob jerky because there's no in right now.
Yeah, there's nothing. That is your only healing item that you are going to have.
So you get in, and the most common enemy in here is elves.
Yeah, forest elves, hobgoblins.
So something we've noticed, something I noticed as an adult. I didn't notice this as a kid playing the game. As a kid, I was like, man, all these monsters look weird. Yeah. But something you notice as an adult is they're named after typical fantasy creatures, but they don't look a thing like them at all.
Yeah.
And we're definitely getting some sort of otherworldly vibe from these monsters.
Yeah, especially stuff like.
But we're not told. This is one of the few JRPGs at this time where no one's explaining the source of the monsters.
Yeah, no, they're just it's just like accepted.
So bear that in mind.
Yeah,
no one's bothering to explain what suddenly made these monsters appear. It's almost as though they've always been there.
I have a theory about the forest elves.
Maybe something else appeared out of nowhere. So bear that in mind. Yeah. So we get into the forest, and we're walking around. We're about to exit the first section. There's no real reason to dwell on this. Nothing really happens. But then we get an FMV scene, and someone is screaming at Faye in Space German.
Yeah.
It's literally Space German. She's like, and like it's...
With a gun at him.
If someone speaks German that's played this game and you're watching this, let me know. Is she speaking German in the anime cutscenes, or is it like someone mimicking German?
Yeah, is it like faux German? But it definitely does sound... like very distinctly German.
And she catches herself and she starts speaking space English.
Yeah.
And
surface dweller. She speaks surface dweller.
Yes, and that is what she calls Faye. She calls Faye a surface dweller. And this is the most important conversation in the game.
It really is.
Absolutely. It's the most important conversation in the game. We quickly pick up, I even picked up as a kid, this is one of the people that was at the village last night.
Yeah.
You quickly pick that up. She wants to know where Faye's going, what he's doing. It's like a cop shakedown.
Yeah.
It feels that way. And Faye immediately starts in with it. And again, because we didn't really get a lot of view of what he did at the village, we don't know if this is a sudden thing or not, but Faye immediately starts in with a, do it.
Yeah.
Do it, shoot me.
Yeah.
And she is flabbergasted.
Yeah.
She's flabbergasted. She can't believe someone
he literally walks into a loaded gun, like walks directly out a loaded gun.
It's kind of an interesting thing because this person is a hardened military commanding officer, and they're like, people can want to die.
What is this?
I've never seen this. like globe-trotting military personnel. Yeah. Suicide is a entirely novel concept.
Yeah, can't wrap her head around that.
But
misses point blank.
She's absolutely she does take a shot and misses because presumably she doesn't have the nerve to kill someone begging to be killed. And
she's probably never done it outside of a gear.
Then he begins describing what he did. He's like, it's my fault what happened in that village. And she's like, you were in the village. And, like, she puts it together that this guy was at the village. She's and like, then she pieces together as he's describing this horrible story that he got into the gear. And then he has a moment where he's like, you know what? No. This isn't my fault.
Yep.
If they hadn't landed there, if they hadn't done this, if they hadn't done that, he starts doing this, and she does the classic anime, you're pointing fingers everywhere but at yourself. You weren't trained to use that gear. You got into it. You must have realized you were putting people's lives in danger. And he goes, and he's like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to go back to being suicidal. Yeah. And so he immediately goes back.
It is my fault. It is my fault.
He immediately goes back to...
which is a drastic change from any other like RPG character.
That's what I was going to mention. When I was a kid playing this, I was 12 years old playing this, and I'm like, what the is going on?
With this dude?
What is going on?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't... And it sort of, I don't want to cast too many shades to Evangelion, but I was reacting to this scene very much the way most Evangelion U.S. fans reacted to Evangelion.
Yeah.
Shinji's a wussy.
Yeah.
Shinji, why don't you want to do that? It's like totally missing the fact that the entire concept of the show is psychological trauma.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I'm sitting there thinking, like, bro, like, you're the like our hero. So thus far, our hero has really been a victim this whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, I've never really put that into words, but I think that is one of the most unique and beautiful things about Xenogears.
It really is.
It's a game about broken people.
Yeah, it really is, because like in normal, like other RPGs at the time, especially, you could have your protagonist have some kind of like awful past. Something
It was
happened.
angsty though.
Yeah,
It was something that
they used it for fuel, kind of thing,
little
right?
did he know when he took everything from me that he was unleashing the monster.
Yeah.
Something very
Yeah,
Well,
because what they always did is they took that and and instead of breaking, they got mad, and then that was like the fuel for their mission until like a pivotal moment happened. But with Faye,
yes.
it's
It's a very human reaction.
Yeah, it's a lot more human, because
It's a lot more like what would have actually happened to a human psyche.
because he literally
having experienced that.
Yeah, he literally witnessed his entire world disappear by his hands, and he can't process it. He literally can't. It breaks him emotionally.
And it's pragmatic writing too, because who's he got to blame? He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know who he'd seek revenge against.
Mhm.
He's got no idea. But anyway, all this is happening, and out of nowhere, one of these elves falls from the sky
Yeah, it doesn't like the loud noise from the gun.
and knocks the woman out.
Mm-hmm.
And Faye, the most important line in the game, far and away.
Yep.
And it seems so innocuous when you're playing as a kid.
Innocuous
When
and
I
weird.
when I played as an adult, though, it just strikes me, and he says, "Leave Ellie alone."
Mm-hmm.
She never gave him her name.
Nope.
They haven't exchanged names yet. Oh, I think he said his name was Faye.
I don't. He might have at that point, but I don't think he had. No, he hadn't at that point.
No, that's right. He had.
It's afterwards.
So he knows her name, and he really doesn't want her hurt.
yeah, like to the point where he sprints into battle.
And
for
I
her.
really felt like this was a boss battle
yeah.
the first time I played. No, it's just one of the wood elves you've been
No.
fighting the whole time.
Depending on how much grinding you do, though, those freaking wood elves are a pain in the butt. They're like the most powerful monster in that forest.
I was totally ready for Dragon Quest by the time I played it. I am a grindy JRPG player.
Yeah.
I don't want to work.
Yeah,
But
I feel that. You put in a little bit of work, then move on.
absolutely. So anyway, Faye sets up a fire. Ellie finally wakes up because that thing just walloped her, brother. I mean, it's night, isn't it?
No.
No. Still daytime.
He
Yep.
defeats the monster. She gets up, and then they have their little conversation.
It's
And-
calm this time.
Yeah, and
It's
but
calm.
this is the part where he starts blaming others than himself. and
That's
Ellie,
right.
and
Yeah.
She,
So
she turns it around on
because
him.
it's almost like a tender moment, but then he sets in with that, and
Yeah.
it's clear as a kid, I kind of got Ellie's point, but as an adult, it's like it's very clear that he's just trying to process something.
Yeah, and by
And he hasn't made the connection that she was probably there. He's still like Faye's just this bewildered hick that's just
he
like,
doesn't know yet.
well, gosh, how'd this young woman get in the woods?
One of the like best moments in that entire conversation they have is Faye literally during that whole conversation he starts freaking out and blaming himself and pretty much yelling about how it's his fault, and he collapses onto the ground just sitting there holding his head. Ellie takes like 2 steps towards him, stops, backs away, and then just leaves
Yeah, because it's like
because she can't process what's happening either.
and we'll find out later something else that was going on in Ellie's mind in that scene, but that's the scene so far. So she leaves.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, she walks right into trouble again.
Yeah, we get a little bit of like a very smidgen of flash into her past.
Oh, that's right. No, because after Faye's going on about how it's all his fault and everything, we get a scene that actually kind of it reminds me of the hallway in Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
When you're following the ninja.
Yeah.
And but it's not as this person didn't enjoy doing what they did that much.
It was bad.
There's a bunch of bloody bodies everywhere. It's a very gory scene, actually. And,
you just hear
Ellie,
her talking about how she didn't mean to. It wasn't her.
we see Ellie with her bloodied hands, bloody everything, and she's like, "I didn't mean to do this. It's all my fault." And
She rehashes the conversation with Faye in her head.
yes,
Remembering her words to him and how that wasn't what he was doing.
Yes,
That was what she was doing.
Yes. So
projection.
But we don't get to dwell on this too much longer because there is a scream. Ellie's walked right into trouble again.
Yeah.
And Faye's like,
big trouble.
And Faye's like, Ellie, rather than my reaction, which would have been like, God damn it, just sit still. Like, we were talking.
Like, stop making loud noises.
I would have stopped crying eventually, and now look what you done.
You just walked off, and what did you find?
He runs off to go get her. And this is a bit more than he could chew.
Only a little. Only a little. It's
the enemy is called a Rancor dragon.
Yeah, it's literally T-Rex.
It's a T-Rex with horns.
Yeah.
So even worse.
Yeah.
And you have to fight this thing on foot for a while, and it's very clear you're not making any headway.
Yeah,
and then
it does not care what you do.
And then from the skies, a true hero emerges. Satan is on that weird spider thing that just the other day didn't work.
His crabacopter supposedly didn't work.
And he's carrying the object of Faye's greatest resentment. He's got the
Faye,
gear.
You remember how literally earlier today I told you to abandon the village you destroyed, and you saw this hateful machine that you hate? Guess what, buddy? Get in. You're gonna need it to fight the Rex.
And God, what we find out about Satan later. This scene is so nefarious because he drops it in front of Faye, and Faye's like, "I will not." Faye is like, "I will not," and he's like, "Oh well, I guess the girl dies."
Yeah, he's like, "You're gonna have
It's
to."
literally Gendo. God damn it. Okay, maybe the Evangelion ones are fair because it's literally Gendo coming by with the battered, within an inch of her life, Rei Ayanami, and saying like, "Oh, you know what? It's not for everybody, bud.
Yeah, it's fine.
Some got it, some don't. I guess. You know what? She'll do it again." And like, I think in the rebuilds, it is like her little eye is peeking at him.
Yes,
I think it's in the rebuilds.
In the rebuilds, her one eye's still completely covered.
Yeah,
but
because that's the iconic image. They weren't going to change that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the rebuilds didn't change that scene very much at all. Actually,
1.11 is actually
it's almost
pretty much right until we see Central Dogma,
give or take.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, that's the only one that really follows the original story at all, and then it deviates.
Then it just goes off. It goes absolutely off the rails. But this is, I swear to God, this is not an Evangelion podcast. Anyway, so Faye does as Shinji, and he's like, "Fine." And I think he even says something like, "This is it, though. This is it." Like yeah. I just get the George Costanza this is the last time. He gets in, and the Rancor Dragon's not a difficult boss, and I think they did that.
You're in a gear.
I think they did that on purpose to show you this is what a gear can do. Like it was sort of And anyway,
it's weirdly enough foreshadowing for something we see later too.
So now we have a nice little campfire scene. Shades of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. Kind of nice, I guess. I wonder if that dude died in Lahan. Side note.
Which dude?
The cameo.
Luca is absolutely a girl.
Oh, wow.
But yes, Luca most likely died in Lahan.
Yeah.
It's straight up Luke.
Stay in your own world.
Chrono Trigger and Xenogears shared a bunch of team members. Tetsuya Takahashi was a graphic designer. He's largely responsible for that beautiful pixel art in Chrono Trigger, and I think Chrono Trigger is like the apex of pixel art when we think of the 16-bit era.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Oh, definitely the 16-bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, Luca most likely died. But anyway, we got Faye's. He's tuckered out, man.
Yeah, he's crashed.
He's had a day, and Ellie and Satan are sitting there. And guess what? Guess what, Aaron? Satan knows space German.
He does.
He knows space German.
And Ellie doesn't know why the hell he knows space German.
And Ellie's like, well, this isn't too much of spoiling what we're telling you guys, but the thing that struck me the most, this was actually the other night at work. I was just working when me and Aaron were talking about doing this before we recorded our first episode. I was thinking of the scene, and I think it would be fun for you guys to know. Satan knows every single thing about this woman.
Yeah.
He knows everything about her. He knows who she is. He knows why Faye knows who she is. By the way, Faye, when he said, "I'll protect you, don't touch Ellie," he doesn't remember saying that.
Yeah, it just
and he still doesn't know her.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Seitan knows everything about this, and Seitan is saying like, "Oh, so you're with Gebler?
Yeah.
Which division? You know?" And he's
Yeah.
basically talking shop with her for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like and all of a sudden he's like, "So
I just this
What?
thing about this scene I had a
go for
moment.
it, go for it."
During this conversation, he's doing all this shop talk and he's talking to her. The conversation leads for reasons that were not actually straight told. Seitan's like, "Okay, well, Ellie, you should leave."
Yeah.
And he tells her to leave. But here's the thing. And for anyone who's actually played the game and has gotten far enough to see it, Seitan specifically is like, "You should go home to your family."
Yes, exactly. See,
And
he's like,
that's-
"You should go home to your family."
If you know her backstory,
Yes,
that's messed up.
Yes. So Seitan is like, "You should go home. You should go to your family that I know you have."
Mhm.
And so she expresses concern for Faye.
Yeah.
She expresses concern for him. There's something about Faye that she feels, and it's not we don't see any hint of a romance. We don't
No.
see any hint of any of this, but there's a very for lack of a better word, like matronly worry.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like,
There's definitely like a connection, like a kindred spirit.
it would be as though
With
your
her,
child
yeah.
had a breakdown when you were taking them to school,
Yeah.
but not enough to where you would call them out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And you still let them go, and you drive away thinking like, man, I hope they're going to have a good day.
Yeah.
So she does, and Faye gets up immediately. Like, he sits up, and Seitan's like, "Oh, you were."
That's it. He lets him know in the morning.
Oh no, that's right. He lets him know that. I thought he sat up.
No.
Man, I could have sworn he sat up.
No. He fake sleeps through the night scene.
Something lets us know that he's like fake sleeping though.
No,
you're right.
not
You're
during the
absolutely
scene,
right.
No, it's afterwards.
Yeah, so in the
because
morning,
the
he's
first
like-
thing he does is he goes, "Is Ellie gone yet?"
Yeah,
And
is
Seitan's
Ellie
like,
gone
"What?"
yet? And Seitan's like, "Oh,
You were
and,
awake.
and then Seitan very, very immediately asks. I do remember this. He immediately asks. He's like, "So, what'd you hear, bud?"
Yeah.
Like,
And then Faye, in what was probably the best move that he didn't realize he was doing, he was like, "I woke up about halfway through."
And
he
I
doesn't
love-
tell him what he knows.
what I love though is that Seitan doesn't ask the question like, "If you were awake part, how do you know it's half?" Like, so Seitan doesn't ask that.
How do you know where the halfway point is?
Or most likely with Seitan, he's like, "You know what? It doesn't matter."
He's like, I got this.
This is the dumbest guy I've ever met in my life. We're going to be fine. So anyway, you get out of Black Moon Forest, and this is the part where Anakin shuts the game off because we are in a sea of sand.
Yeah, the infinite
We're
desert.
in the infinite deserts of Ave, and there's a town just up ahead.
Yep.
It's doing the classic JRPG thing of every time you get out of one area, you go to another. And this is something like we talk a lot about open world games, right? And I am just becoming more and more not a fan of truly open world games where you're just given a landmass that you can go wherever you want.
with zero direction.
With zero
and
direction and
100%
stuff.
Grind.
And this is one of the things I love about a nice linear game. And back then they knew how to make linear games where you still felt like you had that exploration.
Yeah.
You still felt like you were doing this. And I thought that was just something because I was a kid and this was already more than like just moving to the right on a screen. But even as an adult, you still feel that like you're going to new locales, you're going to new places. It's just you're going there as the developer wanted you to.
Yeah.
Yada yada yada. You go into Dazil.
Yep.
Or Dazel, or again, pronunciation's gonna be weird. There's no these places weren't mentioned in the 20 minutes of anime we get.
I always accent the A, so it's Dazel. to me.
Dazel.
Yeah.
So you get into
Probably
Dazel,
wrong.
and it's very much like a Mos Espa, Mos Eisley.
Yeah, it's very
very
much your, like,
Tatooine.
you're almost like a stereotypical like space opera desert town.
Seitan wants to get parts.
Yeah, that's
He
the
wants
first
to
thing
get
he
parts to
wants.
fix Weltall. Faye's like, "Why do you want to fix
he's
it?
like, why are we fixing
Just
that?
leave it where it is." And Seitan's like, "Ah."
Oh no! What's even better about that scene? What's really good about that is Faye's like, we don't need it. Like we've made it this far without the stupid thing. Like we're
Seitan's
good.
like, "We absolutely have not. We
Yeah.
needed it for the fight
But
that
yeah,
too, right?"
but no, Seitan's like, yeah, but you know, it's still awfully close to what's left of Lahan, and I bet people are still looking for it. What do you think, Faye, would happen if they started searching around Lahan for that gear.
Faye, I'm shocked at you. You really want to finish what you started, don't you? You
Good
want them
for
to
you.
suffer and die. And
Burn
he's like,
the rest of it. Yeah, no, but he's like straight up like, he's like, it'd be a real shame if, so let me ask you something, Faye. You got 2 different countries currently at war, and they're both looking for something. That's bad, right? And Faye's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. And he's like, okay, well, that's something happens to be near Lahan. That's bad too, right? He's like, yeah, that's bad. And he's like, huh. So what do you think would happen if those 2 forces just kind of bumped into each other right outside of Lahan while looking for the gear that started this entire massacre at your hands? And Faye's like, all right.
hey, Faye, you think that shop down there sells cigarettes? Why? Well, I think Lahan would like to smoke after you're done fucking it. So, Seitan wants to get parts, and he tells Faye, go ahead and wander the village. Just don't get in trouble.
Yeah. He gives them one of those at first. They look around a little bit, realize there's nothing in town.
You go through some, and this is the first part of the game where you encounter who you find out to be miraculously one of the most important characters of the game, and that's not a joke.
Yeah.
He is the Perfect Works goes into detail about this fella. He is my profile picture currently on Discord, which please join the Discord. We're having a lot of fun there.
Yeah, it's really good. Lots of good
There will be
conversations.
links in there. And we have good friends, but we'd like to make more friends. You can't ever have too many friends.
Yeah.
We'll leave the light on for you. But
what's cool about this like character that like is so like at first you're like, oh yeah, this dude's important because he has a picture on his text box.
Yep.
But then your
Yep.
first introduction to him is him literally drunker than a skunk.
And the best part about this, I didn't pick up on this as a kid, and when I played as an adult, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe it. Because Xenogears is full of moments where you're like, I can't believe. This was localized, translated almost entirely by himself by a man named Richard Honeywood. He's a god. This game is a wall of text. And so every little, you know how people love finding like little mistakes in games back then, and like, oh, look at this. What were these guys doing? This man had a monument in front of him.
I've
And
only
he-
seen one so far.
He had where basically he was challenged to bring this game to America, and as we explore more themes and stuff in this game, holy shit,
Yeah.
he was bold with a lot of the stuff that he didn't glaze over, that he didn't give the 4 kids translation
Yeah,
treatment.
because he did.
I
mean, hell, I was surprised when I'm replaying this game right now. There's a freaking prostitute in Lahan.
Yep.
And
Yep.
like that makes it clear she's a prostitute.
Yep.
And like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. And like as a kid, I think the reason I didn't remember
Final
that is 'cause-
Fantasy VI was 4 years before this, by the way. 4 mere years. And there's very famous things in its translation of them obviously kidding down things.
Yeah.
But so what I'm talking about in this exact instance, though, is Big Joe. That's his name.
he looks like Disco Elvis.
Yes, he looks like Disco Elvis. He has a very prominent cleft chin, that sort of thing.
Absolute
Open
Chad.
shirt, leisure suit.
Yeah, absolute Chad.
He is arguing with a bunch of the boys in the shop. He's drunk, and he's challenging a lot of these guys. And at one point, he says, I didn't know you guys were PUSS, and then it does the dash, and his text box cuts off. He was literally about to call these guys a bunch of pussies.
Yeah.
And basically all the guys are like, this isn't worth it. And it's like, so this...
Yeah, the one sober friend's like, come on, buddy, he ain't worth it. He ain't worth it.
We'll get to this. And this is the single most important man living on this earth. He is integral to you beating the end boss.
Yeah.
Integral.
Yeah, because I defy you to do it.
And the first time we encounter him, he is drunker than a hootie owl, challenging a bunch of roughnecks to a fight and calling them pussies.
All because they were being loud while he was trying to have his drink.
Exactly. And that's a big theme with Joe. We're going to find out. Big Joe, he likes to...
He's loud, but you don't be loud.
He likes to, like, I always imagine with like an Elvis voice,
Yeah.
like a Johnny Bravo Elvis voice. Anyway,
that definitely suits him.
Anyway, finally, Faye and Seitan go in, and the guy that's doing it is like, what the hell is it? This is like cutting edge gear. Like, you're in a mining town. I don't have these parts.
I got nothing.
And
Go
Citan's
talk
like,
to
when will you
Ethos.
get him in? And he's like, buddy, you're not listening to me. Like,
He's like, I have nothing.
we're miners.
Yeah.
Okay, we're miners and moisture farmers. We're like,
He's like, if I do get this part, the military instantly back orders everything. He's like, I have nothing.
He's like, you're gonna have to go to Ethos directly.
Yep.
And I like that the fact that this gear isn't on any register or whatever is not a red flag to this guy. Like, he's just like, I always picture this character with like a half-spoken stogie in his mouth. Like, hey, come on!
What it is he knows better. He knows that when you have some random dude wander out of the desert and ask for the most cutting edge of military-grade gear parts, that you don't ask the questions.
Absolutely.
That's why that guy's still in business.
That's why this guy's still alive. He knows what bears to poke and which ones to run.
He just watches them leave. And he's like, he looks at Faye. He's like, that boy, right?
But what do we do if they come in asking for rare gear parts? We ask them politely but firmly to leave. Citan is like, yeah, I'm gonna take care of this.
Yeah, I like how the thing that's great about it is like Citan's this whole time he's like, yeah, we have to go to the Ethos to get these kind of parts. We have to go to the Ethos to get these kind of parts. The Ethos is the only kind of people who have military parts. Hey Faye, stay here. I'm gonna wander off into the desert and not tell you exactly why and be back later.
We later find out that Ethos HQ is literally on the other side of the globe. This is a very strange part of the game because when you're a kid, it's kind of hard to figure out. Because Citan makes it clear, Citan, as the game, makes it perfectly clear you to wait on him, and you absolutely are not supposed to.
Yeah, you can't. You
can't.
Because he bails. He gets like a sand crawler.
He rents a sand crawler.
Yeah. And then the dude who sells it or loans it to him looks at Faye and he's like, you're letting him go out there alone? He's going to die. And Faye's like, oh, fuck. And then he runs off into the desert.
And Faye runs on foot, by the way. Yep. He was told the guy in the sand cruiser was going to die, but he can run off by foot.
Not a planning man, that Faye.
Faye runs into Ave soldiers after wandering. You can wander forever, by the way.
Yeah, by this point, the Infinite Desert thing, you can wander in that one on accident. When this happens, it's almost purely cutscene.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But the best part about it is that Faye runs into a bunch of like Ave soldiers on like dirt bikes, right? And they're like doing patrols or something. Who knows? And he makes one of them crash, steals the dude's bike, making some nonsense 90s action hero promise to bring it back later,
and leaves that man to die in the desert. But that death was not in vain because we get like the coolest X game jumps out of Faye. Like he's having the time of his life looking for Doc.
Apparently, having like amnesia and living your entire life in a secluded mountain village makes you an expert.
Makes you Jeremy McGrath.
Yeah, you are an expert biker.
But I only know Jeremy McGrath because his name was on the. I think it was even BMX, not even like motocross. He might have been motocross. He was the one that had video games.
Oh yeah, so I mean that counts. They're both wheeled.
But I don't know. He might have been motocross. Well, is motocross the motorcycles?
And
BMX is alternating bike. I mean, I know what a BMX is.
BMX is just like
bikes,
trick bikes.
Yeah,
like
they don't really race. They do tricks.
Yeah, it's all about doing cool little flippies and stuff like that.
So anyway, mind you, there are no tracks. Faye has just picked. He's just picked a direction.
He literally just headed off into the was it the Sierra Desert? What am I thinking of? I don't know geography anymore. The big and the Savannah, no.
Sahara.
That's
he wanted the
Sierra. I just
imagine like a college professor like, there are several great deserts on this land: the Sierra Nevada, the Gobi in China, and the Big Un. And he just circles northern Africa.
You know why I thought Sierra Desert?
Sierra Nevada here in America.
No, the old PC gaming company that had like a Dune looking logo.
Sierra. They did the great adventure games and stuff like that. Fantastic adventure. Sierra's legendary.
That was a random memory.
I'm actually kind of surprised you played Sierra games. We've never talked about that.
Yeah, I've played like a fair amount of them.
King's Quest.
Yeah.
King's Quest.
I played a bunch of those kind of things because I was fortunate enough to get a extremely shitty 90s computer.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all did.
And pushing that 3 kilobytes of RAM to its limit.
Yeah,
or whatever it had.
I remember my dad. I didn't realize what he was doing when I was a kid, but my dad had a buddy that was really into computers at his work. My dad was an industrial mechanic. He was not a computer guy, but he really embraced computer culture when he went and got our first computer. But he had a buddy at work that was really into computers, and they always said, this guy's really into computers. He's, and basically what it was he knew how to operate very well within the Windows UI on Windows 95. Windows 95 was what we started on, kids.
I started on DOS.
My dad is a wizard at a DOS environment. It's the one place he's really good with computers. But
I can boot up a floppy drive. That's about all I got.
My dad would always bring home floppy disks with games written on them. And I didn't realize what was going on when I was a kid. But my dad, this guy would give him games, and my dad just thought for whatever reason, if I was playing video games on a console, it was video games, and he didn't get it.
Yeah.
But if I was playing video games on a computer, he's like, man, my boy's really good with computers. And all I'm doing is playing games. But we'll get into that. This is not a podcast about classic computer gaming, but you really did have to have some knowledge of what you were doing.
Yeah.
To run computer, if you were playing Ultima or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's why all these really antiquated, even before my time, computer games, I have a fondness for because my dad was getting bootlegs from a guy at work.
So funny.
So
yeah, Faye, he's sport biking it through the desert, and
he finally finds someone.
Yeah, 2 giant military gears.
Yeah, but it ain't Satan.
No.
So he finds 2 military gears, and we're told we've been told time and time again, this is not a military area, this is a mining area, these are blue-collar people, but these guys are not miners.
Yeah, they are 100% soldiers.
And they've got a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I think they knew the guy whose bike Faye stole. I think they knew that guy. That was their buddy.
So it's time to do something about this.
Yeah. But unfortunately we don't get a cool Faye karate chopping a gear scene. What we get instead is our boy Satan magicking up another miracle for reasons.
Right. He
But no, yeah, the gears start to attack Faye, and then Satan somehow out of nowhere finds Faye, and he's in Walthall. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Faye." He's like, "I suck at using the oh God, Jesus." He's like, "Hey, Faye, I really am not good at using this thing. You better use it. You're the only one who can bring out its potential." And Faye's like, "What?"
I forgot about that. That is absolutely.
He flip-flops so much on if Faye should use the freaking gear or not. But yeah, he literally is he's like, "Only you can bring out its full potential." And Faye's like, "Meh." And fine.
It's funny because he is being honest right now.
Yes.
But for what he needs this gear to do right now, we find out later, Satan is well more than capable.
Oh yeah, he could have easily handled it.
It is true that it is true that Weltel needs Faye to reach his full potential.
But not.
It is not true that he needs that.
Not for taking out stock military gears.
I just accidentally called him Satan. But what's really funny about that is in Japan, the character is called Shaitan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be a play on Satan.
Yeah.
He is literally named after Satan in Japan.
Yeah.
So they had a clue as to who this guy was way before we did. So the fight, it's a fight.
Yeah. You depending on how you've leveled and how you are with your gear, you take him out pretty quick. It ain't nothing.
It's not
Yeah. Pretty basic.
What is interesting though is what happens after this fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's where things are going to get really interesting.
That's where it gets interesting, and it gets cryptic too. All the cryptic.
So this is something we're going to see happen a lot in Xenogears. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a whole lot of terms and a whole lot of dialogue thrown at us without any context, without any clues, without any sort of meaning whatsoever.
And you'll go a long time between hearing them too.
And these are literally when I was a kid, I thought it was just classic JRPG mystify you with it was Sephiroth talking to Cloud.
Yeah, and it was embellishing it for the sake of drama.
And then later you'll see a scene and you'll be like, oh, that's what was happening before. But what I really think Xenogears was doing was planting, and I didn't know it at the time. Like I said, that's what I thought it was at the time, was just Sephiroth talking to Cloud, just these weird scenes that it won't make sense directly later, but we'll see what it was later.
Yeah.
Xenogears is doing the opposite. It's doing something that's going to make sense later.
Yeah.
All this dialogue, if you played through the game before, all this dialogue makes perfect sense.
It makes 100% sense.
This isn't just nonsense to get you to get to a later point.
Yeah,
this
and
is,
and it's not like the character is like trying to rile you up or anything like that.
basically, to put it simply, this is a character who knows Faye, encountering Faye, talking to him like you normally would, and then at one point it's like, oh God, you don't remember, do you? It would be like me coming up to Aaron and being like, Aaron, do you remember where we grew up and this school and all this? And then I find out Aaron has amnesia. The character is not. We'll go into what's happened. So this really distinct music starts playing. It's almost like Darth Vader's theme.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent in that like heavy overture.
Heavy overture,
that
disciplined
dread.
military march.
Implies
and
a lot of dread.
there's a lot of dread in it that never pays off in an artistic way. And Perfect Works actually says this character, Tetsuya Takahashi's note to the character designer was that he wanted the character to look like Darth Vader. This character, his name is Groff. He's got a portrait. And he's got a gear that looks a little like Weltall. Like a little bit.
Similar body shape.
Just kind of brown. And savvy minds will notice it was the gear at Lahan that was raising its hand to bring up the fallen gears.
Yep, and it was the one directing the other gears in terms of what they did.
So basically,
it gave the permission. He gave the permission to shoot Timothy.
Yes, he gave the order to shoot Timothy, and it's very, very interesting because he clearly wasn't associated with either side in that conflict. It leans towards Kislev, but it doesn't seem like he has any real.
Yeah, you don't get this feeling that he's like
he's not a commanding officer in the Kislev army.
And he's not like a Kislev spy or anything like that from the way it feels. He's a dude.
This guy's really doing his own thing, and we'll get into what he says. And he's basically offering Faye power.
Yeah. He wants to know if Faye wants power, and he also wants to test Faye's power.
So he's saying, Faye, I want to test what you would do. Because you've been in that village for 3 years. I'm worried about what's happening. It's clear this guy knows who Faye is.
Yeah, and he gives some like typical like villain overshadowing nonsense to you about Faye. The kind of stuff that like a villain would normally just say, and it's like, he's being weird, like whatever. But again, that's not Xenogears' style. Xenogears tells you exactly what it means, but it doesn't tell you what it means until much later.
You don't. Basically, these characters are speaking as they would.
Yeah,
they're not being purposely cryptic. They're just speaking as they would, and we will find out what they're talking about later.
It only feels cryptic because at this point you don't know anything.
It's like coming in on a college lecture in the middle of the series and then going back and catching up on the other videos. So the basic premise though is you've probably gotten soft. I want to test out what you could do, but do you really want to go to the next level? And here's where the game gets. This is where we're getting into the real meat of the game because he says
it gets heavy here.
Because he says you're going to want this power because you're going to kill God.
He specifically tells Faye that his mission, like Groff's mission, is to kill God. But
and that you in that gear, both of you are integral to killing God. And what I loved about when I'm a little kid playing this game, and I've seen media where there are villains who claim to be gods.
Yes,
I've seen media where a god, as in a god amongst many, was killed.
Yeah,
this is not that.
Yeah, this is capital G
Groff
God
wants to kill proper noun God. And we've heard God mentioned a lot by NPCs and stuff like that. People in this world seem really religious. So far, it hasn't really seemed like a cohesive religion.
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel like there's
not like a devoted worship site or
none that we've seen yet.
Yeah, or like a dogma.
And sometimes it doesn't even feel like the God these people are talking about is the same guy.
Yeah.
But right now, this is a very it's so well written in that. The one thing that it really strikes me, it struck me when I was a kid, is he's like, we're going to kill God, and Faye is like, why? And he's like, we're going to kill God.
Yeah.
Like
this is what you do.
Like this is what he's like, you know, it's it's like being kids, like we're gonna go outside and play, and one of them says why, and you're like, what do you mean why?
It's like, this is what we do. This is what we train for.
So this is really it's just like I don't, because when I was a kid, so I'm a kid. I'm 12 years old. I know I like this game.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do, but so far, there's a big old spaceship.
Yep.
Something got loose. It crashed into the Earth.
Yep.
There's a war going on. There's gears that they're digging out from underground. They're not really
Yep.
building them. They're digging them out from
Yep.
underground. This guy really likes his life in this village. Everyone else is kind of on edge around him, but not
Mhm.
really, because they do welcome him. They just don't.
Yeah.
He destroys it. He kills literally every single person in the village,
Yeah.
except for just enough to have lost enough relatives to really make him feel bad when he
Yep.
wakes up the next morning. There is a doctor that seems sketchy as fuck.
Yep.
But you trust him implicitly for no reason.
Yeah.
Um,
He's the doc.
There's a woman who you know, but you don't know.
Mhm.
She speaks space German.
Yep.
The doctor also speaks space German. The
Yep.
doctor also knows everything about her.
Yep.
Sends her on her way. You can't find parts. And now there's a guy in a Darth Vader mask in the middle of the desert who just happened to be where you were, who also gave the order to kill your best friend,
Yeah.
who also has the power to make gears get up after the dead.
Yep.
And he wants to kill God, and you're supposed to have something to do with it. And it's just, it's this game still doesn't even have a plot.
No, it's all in a lot of ways. It's like all over the place. Like
This game is still like
but-
it's like if Empire Strikes Back were the only Star
Yeah.
Wars
But
movie.
you know what the beauty of it is, though, is that the way the story kind of fumbles around in the beginning, that is exactly
sets the stage.
it sets the
perfectly.
stage, and that is exactly what is happening with Faye.
It's how
Faye
the main
is-
character's feeling.
Yes, he is literally falling from one thing to the next with no control.
And God, that's such a good analogy for it too, because or a good description for it. Sorry, not an analogy, because it's like that's sort of true to life. It's like when you get up in the morning, you don't really know what the plot of the day is going to be.
Yeah, you may have a theory, but there's no guarantee it's going to happen.
So that cryptic back of the box, it kind of makes sense, because like I almost wonder if that was an actual artistic decision
Mhm.
that Tetsuya Takahashi and Soraya Saga made,
to purposely
where they were
mislead
like,
with it.
let's just roll with this game.
Mhm.
We don't get a cohesive plot, like a cohesive goal for Faye,
Mhm.
until a couple hours from now, and it's got nothing to do with where the game winds up.
Yeah, no, his
Um,
initial purpose, quote unquote, it's not what his purpose becomes. It's what he thinks it is.
So, because right now he just got told, like, you're going to kill God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. You know, I sense some hesitation.
Yeah, I sense
I
a little
sense some hesitation.
and that's probably because you're a bitch. No.
But I have the power.
Yeah.
Like, I have it.
I got
have it. That He-Man doesn't have it anymore. I have it. Oh my God! Grumph goes, "Do you desire the power?" He picks out the power glove. Now you're playing with power.
that would certainly explain some of the encounters with him.
And then we get an AVGN video, but hopefully 10 years ago when he was still actually really funny.
So one thing really quick I was wondering about is so you know you've mentioned before you were raised Catholic, and
Yes.
your family was not, from what I know, what I would necessarily call super hardcore Catholics.
They were not devout Catholics at all.
But you still were raised Catholic, and Catholicism is inherently a little bit more like stringent, I guess we could say.
I don't even know that it's more strict. I would call a lot of Protestant religions more strict than Catholicism, because, like, for
Well,
instance,
Maybe I should say more ordered then.
when I was involved with a local church, when they would have their raffle nights, this church, their Catholic school, their kindergarten through 8th grade Catholic schools on the same property, when they would have their fish fries on Fridays, the keg would be in the gymnasium of that school. I mean, it was Friday night. School was out.
Yeah.
But these guys, not only was there a keg at this religious meeting, but it's like, that's sort of something culturally for our area too. Like,
Yeah.
drinking is just like there obviously there are alcoholics. There's people with
Oh,
horrible
yeah.
problems with it, but that's sort of seen as like it's still seen as unfortunate, and I don't want to say people are like, well, he can't hold his liquor, because I think people are sympathetic towards it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of seen as ain't gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
it's drinking's not really taboo in this area at all. But Catholic, I think what you're trying to say is there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. Obviously, what I probably should say, not so much that it's like strict. Maybe I should say instead it's a lot more like structured, and there's
extremely so. And I actually, something that this game always reminds me of. I miss that part of being in the church.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really miss the religion aspect at all.
Maybe like just the framework.
I think if a lot of Catholics were honest with themselves, and I'm allowed to say what I want about Catholics because I grew up one, and also nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody's going to be like, you leave those poor Catholics alone.
They've had enough.
I don't think that Catholics, I don't think that a lot of them, it's a religious experience for them. I think it's a cultural one. I think it's that structure is comforting. If I go and sit in a Catholic church, and like an actual Catholic church, like one that was built in the old days, and I see the stained glass stations of the cross and everything, I feel safe.
Yeah.
Like,
see, that is one thing that even me, so I was raised Lutheran, I guess. Like, I say I was raised Lutheran just because once I was an adult.
Damn, I was hoping to see you in heaven.
I know, right?
Shit.
I feel the same way about you, buddy.
Boy, you're in for a rude awakening. My religion's won way more wars than yours has, buddy.
Yeah, mine cut out all the boring parts of yours. It's not my religion. So, okay, I only say I was raised Lutheran because I realized once I was adult, that's what my mom was, and I always got her point of view on it growing up.
Yeah.
So I was raised Lutheran, kinda. Never once a day in my life ever went to a church, except for the few times I had to spend the night at my aunt's and they took me to Catholic mass and wouldn't let me participate.
Such a like, oh, you're welcome to come. You're welcome to come. You're welcome to come.
Do not get a cracker.
They actually see that as a form of protecting you because it is a sin if you're not a certain part of the church. Yada yada yada.
But yeah, I went to mass with them a couple times. Extended family a couple times would take me to like these random churches, but I did not have anywhere near a religious upbringing. And you didn't really either, but because you had Catholicism,
I was in mass on Sunday, but it was mass. It was the same thing every Sunday.
Yeah, but you still had that. So like, you heard it. With it being the same thing in a way, that's actually what kind of brings me to my question. Like, you heard the same thing, the same like style of reverence, the same lesson, or not even lesson really, but just the same thing over and over and over. So I'm curious, with you having that Catholic like background and your understanding of religion as a whole at that time in your life when you were a kid, being Catholic based, what kind of things did you think when you had this dude literally popping up and talking about you, the character, you, the player, being the slayer of capital G God?
So it's an interesting thing. I never... It's an odd thing because I think a lot of Christians in general, not just Catholics, but I think a lot of Christians in general have a knee-jerk reaction to the word God.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they and I am not bad-mouthing Christians with this at all. To them, that's everything, God, and so they're always going to associate it with their God.
Yeah,
always. And so I think, like, for instance, when people say, oh, my God, they're not saying, oh, my God. Most of these people don't have a God when they say, oh, my God. But
it's literally just an expression at that
or
point.
God damn.
Yeah.
And if someone asks me not to say that around them, I usually try to be, I usually try to be like, okay, whatever. But so being a kid, I never thought they were talking about the Catholic God because this is not. This is another world.
Not. Yeah, it's
I never. So, but even as a child, I felt like they were saying something by making it God.
Yeah.
They didn't name this deity. They didn't name this deity something else.
They didn't give him like a specific name. They used the generalized turned into a noun.
As an adult, they are. I understand now that they're killing God in the Nietzschean sense.
Yeah.
That's what the goal. I almost said his real name. Groff's goal. That's all, folks. We'll see. We'll see you later. Groff's goal is his thematic goal, his symbolic goal is to kill God in the Nietzschean sense.
Yeah.
Friedrich Nietzsche, of course, opined that God was once necessary to guide humanity morally, and by God, and so basically, God is interchangeable with religion in this view. And again, there's many great podcasts that will tell you exactly what Tetsuya Takahashi meant by this. This is what I'm interpreting the game as.
Exactly.
This is what it meant to me.
Yeah.
And that is that they absolutely do mean to kill God in the sense of killing religion. That's Groff's goal.
Yeah.
But that's what the writer wrote as his goal. What Groff, the character, what's going on in his head, he's going to kill God.
Yeah.
And Groff has a reason for wanting to do this. But for right now, he's not speaking to someone that he's not speaking to a partner.
Yeah, he's not speaking
He's
to an
not
equal.
speaking to someone that he's going to share his feelings with. He's speaking to a tool.
Yeah.
It's like it would be like a soldier looking at his M1 Garand and saying, "You see that Nazi over there, buddy?
Yeah.
We're gonna kill him
You and
because first off, he's gonna kill us if we don't kill him, and second off, our nations are at war, and third, I just don't like him very much." No, it's so he's not speaking to a peer. So he's giving him the mission, but he's not explaining himself, and that's an extremely frustrating thing for Faye and the player.
Yeah, because Faye throughout that whole scene, he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
What do you? And mind you, this is 1998.
Yeah.
And
to stress once again, we're 12.
We're 12. I have been 12 literally for days when I got to this point. And like it's funny, my son is turning 12 here in a month and a half, 2 months. No, it's way less than 2 months.
Time to start a rite of passage.
Well, it's funny because the things he's into and everything, like I just don't see him sitting. I don't see him sitting down, like being like, man, I really want to play this text-heavy game. He really enjoys he enjoys games where his creativity could flow.
Yeah.
I enjoyed games where I was experiencing other people's creativity.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that.
Let him hit his 15-year-old.
I think when
his stride into diving into the depths of things.
He's very interested in how these games are made. He just doesn't want to play them yet. But he's actually playing Horizon Zero Dawn right now, and he's getting really into the story of it. So
there you go. Needs a gateway drug. That's a good one.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that's where like I think my religious background is what made this game speak to me so hardcore, because it seemed jarring at first when he's like, "You're going to kill God," but as I sat and thought about it, and by the way, like I'm not saying like religion is inherently bad or good either way. I'm saying with the writers of this game, and I don't think they are either.
No, they were just telling a story, I think.
Well, I think they had a clear message, but I think that message was I think Xenogears, and I'll go ahead and declare this right now, and this is what I think. This is what I think Xenogears is about at its core. Soraya Saga actually said it's a game about where we came from, what we're doing, and where we're going. And I think that Xenogears at its core is a game about human agency.
Yeah.
It's a game about, and I think what the point of it, and I want to end here because we just did all that religious talk, and it probably sounded heavier than it needed to, because we're stressing killing God because it was so jarring for us as children to see it. That's why we're stressing it. But the game is about killing God in the Nietzschean sense. That aspect of the game, but I don't think it's about like mankind doesn't need religion, and we'll get into that much later. In fact, at the very end.
Yeah.
But I think it's a game about human agency. I think it's a game about I think what they wanted us to take away from this game at the end, and we'll revisit this at the end. I think they wanted us to be like, okay, if God is what I need, that's fine. But if I could live a happy, fulfilled life on my own merit. I think that's fine too.
Yeah.
If I need a purpose, if I need to come up with some life goal, like some mission in life, and that's what's going to give me purpose, I think that comes back to the Nietzschean concept of the will, the nihilistic concept of, like there is no inherent meaning to life except that which we assign it.
Yeah.
And a very interesting thing, something I noticed this past time in the forest, the Nietzschean concept of the eternal return occurs a lot in this game.
Yeah, it
and
really
again,
does.
I don't want this to be a podcast about like getting real deep in themes. It's just this is something I personally understand from my own readings. So it's something that hit me because again, I want this to be very much about our personal experience with the game. But in the forest, the eternal return is really explored because it's two people wanting to place blame everywhere but themselves, and ultimately they realize that they have whether blame lies with them or not. Responsibility has to lie on them, and we're going to see that over and over and over in this game. There's going to be people who they come up with the wildest reason.
Yeah,
God, even talking about this now, I now realize that Xenogears, people come up with the wildest reasons in this game for why they have to do things, and it always, this game is very careful about that one loose end. They will always realize, whether they're a villain, a hero, otherwise, they'll always realize it ultimately comes down to you, because if you don't take responsibility, whether you're responsible or not, you are giving up your agency. Yeah, you are forfeiting your agency. If it's someone else's fault you're late to work, buddy, you're always going to be late to work.
Yeah, if it's always their fault and never yours,
you can't expect people to be like, well, you know what, that's a darn good reason. Yeah. It's okay for you to be late every day for the rest of your life.
We'll have you scheduled in later.
If you don't take responsibility, you're forfeiting your agency to fix it. Yeah, and that's really what this game's about. Is, and even if fixing it is just, even if someone really hurts you, and even if fixing it is just learning to let that go. Yeah. Even if that's the responsibility you have to take for it, because you can't ever expect someone else to. You can't expect someone else to act a certain way, no matter what that way is. Yeah, true. And so that's that might actually be a lesson that Xenogears planted in my head when I was little. I mean, it's very never possible. Realized until I was an adult. But that's it's something I think about a lot, because it's very easy to say, oh, this is this thing's fault, this is that thing's fault, this is this person's fault. But until you're like, okay, because
until you're like, well, it's this thing caused this, but what am I going to do about it? And not in a, oh no, what am I going to do about it, but more in a, what am I going to do about this situation? Until you take that step, you're just in this cyclical behavior. And
that's what we see these characters do over and over again in this game. So with Groff's little conversation, we're going to go into this. When we return next week, Groff has a little surprise for Faye that might encourage him to accept this power. Guys, I think we had a really great show today. I hope you guys think so too. Leave us a review wherever you're choosing to enjoy us. Comment on YouTube, and for God's sakes, join that Discord. Yeah, and we will. Aaron, any closing thoughts?
Not about the show per se, but more just like leave your comments and everything, but also the Discord is a great one, specifically because we're in there. And if you literally want to comment us directly, basically, about something,
you can just add us.
You literally can.
You just get in there and add us.
And then if you don't want to talk to us, there's a crap load of other people to talk to, and you don't have to. That's the beauty of it.
Legitimately, the friendliest guy in the world, Lesser Metal, is in that Discord.
Yeah. So I don't even know that dude, and I already like him now.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's the OG Donoram fan. We're all happy to have him. Guys, be careful, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.